One of my really good friends says fences keep good neighbors. Setting up the boundaries for yourself, right? To protect against the things that should not be in your orbit. Letting people know where you begin, where you end, right? Figuring out how to allocate time for yourself, but also for your community and for others. Like, what does that look like as you design your life?
Hello, Better Together fans. Better Together with Maria Menounos here, but no, I'm not Maria Menounos, as you might be able to make an educated guess. I'm Mr. Maria Menounos. I'm bringing you part 2 of our great interview with Latham Thomas, celebrity doula, lifestyle expert, and man, a whole lot more.
A whole lot more. And Kev, I think you should read the quote again because it's a good quote.
The act of standing in your power ignites a force within that glows from the inside out. We're going to explore that on this episode. We explore that a little more, a little more deeply, and
that's right.
We especially get into, the difference between passion and calling.
Yeah,
which I think is so important, and then how to find out what your calling is.
Right.
Find out what your purpose is. Find out who you are. Anyway, we'll bring you the interview, and then we'll wrap it up, as they say.
Woo.
When we're done. Stay tuned. Okay, so I have so many other questions here. Kelsey, what do I do? Okay.
I want to know how we glow from the inside
I don't think.
out.
Are you on, honey? I don't know if your mic is on.
Oh, hi. Here I am. Latham, I want to know how we glow from the inside out. I'm here for this. Like that quote he read at the beginning.
But you do glow. But you glow from. You already do that.
Yeah.
Kelsey.
Okay. But I also have a soccer ball in my stomach, so clearly there's some things that I need to.
Yeah, she has stomach issues we've been working on.
So many people do. And I just feel like it goes back to that quote Kev read at the beginning about standing in your power.
Yeah.
So
yes.
I'm like, we need to know all of these things.
Yeah. I feel like, glow power is essentially, stepping into and owning every aspect, right? Of what makes us uniquely who we are.
Good and bad.
Huh?
Good and bad. Like the good
and bad.
end of us, yeah.
And you know what? Usually, by the way, bad, if you think about what characterizes bad, it's things that people have said to us that are characteristics that they can't handle, right? Like if you think about when someone, oh, you're too much, or you're too this, or you're too that, and so the things that we internalize that are like, oh, I talk too much, or I talk too loud, or I'm this, and you're like, but if you think about those characteristics that we try to tuck away or silo or denounce about ourselves, think about what that actually means. Those are actually gifts, right? These are actually things that if we cultivated instead of, pushing away because we were policed or we were, shamed for these qualities, that if we cultivated and leaned into these qualities would probably be at the core of our power, right?
Yeah. So let's go to the person who talks a lot, so you can mute that person or they can mute themselves. Or I like the word cultivate refine because it doesn't mean to keep just blah, 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 but it means when you cultivate that and say, wait, yes, you compress, you learn how to say things with more meaning, maybe, it's, so I love that. Cultivate and, cultivate it, but don't necessarily just be ignorant and just maybe what they're saying to you is you can use it as something to improve upon, but don't mute it.
Yeah, don't mute, express, and even the things that are, challenging about ourselves too, the things that we want to refine or do less of or change, I think are also an opportunity to look within and see, okay, how am I going to make this beautiful? Right? Like, look at this part of myself that, I'm not nurturing or I'm not giving energy to, and understanding that there's a place for every aspect of ourselves, and that even the things that are that we do not like have a place also, not necessarily fully expressed, but there's a place for these aspects of ourselves that we need to explore in a way that we don't necessarily have the permission to in our society. And so what this idea of glowing from within is really sort of designing a life and designing the aspects of your life, right, to really mirror your intention, to really mirror the fullness of who you are, to really celebrate the things, especially that you know are amazing about you, but that people aren't ready to see yet. And that's what I think is so beautiful about this moment too, is that we see so many people who are like really in their power, and people are like, wow, like something about this person, I don't know, their energy. It's like you're attracted to not just, it's not like a physical, it's like this incredible energy that people emit when they feel powerful, when they're stepping into like ownership of themselves, right? And that takes courage as well, right? Because when people are looking at you and telling you, you should do this, you should do that. All of us have stories of our parents telling us to do certain things that we didn't obey. And thank God that we didn't, because we became who we were supposed to be, right? Yeah. Then we have the stories of, right? Like, oh, I told you so's and that. And I think back to all of the things that even my mom, like thinking on things that she told me to do. And she was so forceful in the way that she delivered these messages to me. And I'm a Taurus, so I'm really stubborn already. So it takes a lot to get me to change my mind. And I didn't change my mind on certain things. I stayed in the core of who I was, and I became the person I was meant to become, because there was advice that I didn't take, right? There was information that I didn't absorb. And so that's part of the ethos as well, is that, you learn how to eat the fish and throw away the bones, right? You learn how to, receive and take in what's necessary and discard of what you don't need. And you also learn how to, on a daily basis, transmit messages to yourself that are positive and deflect out the things that are like negative and not serving, and that's really important, that we have to do that all the time, because every message we get in the world will turn us away from ourselves, right? If you go into a magazine, if you go on social media, you go wherever you go, you could have been feeling really great, and then you emerge and you don't feel good, because we have messages that are turning us away from ourselves. So you have to be the master of that for yourself. You have to be the one that decides like how you're going to move through the world on a daily basis. I have to decide that, I'm not going to let something turn me in a different direction or take me off course, because this is what I'm meant to do today. And I have to accomplish a lot, in not just like, in terms of performance, but there's a lot that I have to accomplish as I show up to the world every single day. Like what does it take emotionally for me to show up? Like I have to be mentally and spiritually fit to show up. So I have to do the things that take care of me first. And that to me is at the essence of standing in your power, is making those choices that center you, your needs, emotional, physical, spiritual, and physical, and that you stay in alignment with that and you don't let stuff throw you off. And so if something comes in, you're like, that doesn't feel good. No, right?
Oh, right.
Like checking in with yourself, and self-care is at the core of that, right? Like checking in with yourself on a moment-to-moment basis to make sure that you feel good. And then when you don't, and by the way, we don't feel good every single day.
Right.
So what do I need to do to get myself to a place where I'm taking care of myself in the way that, by the way, I would take care of someone else, in the way that I would take care of a baby? And we need to do these things for ourselves first. And it's not just about bubble baths and trying to bubble bath your problems away. It is about, right? Because we see that on social.
Oh my God, it's the wine and the bubble bath.
You get out the bathtub, you're dehydrated, and you drank wine, so you wake up the next day with a headache, right? So that's not self-care. I'm talking about
mommy juice.
Right? I am talking about, what I'm talking about more is the check-in, is the boundaries you set around yourself, right? Yeah. Like what I will do, what I won't do, the fences. One of my really good friends says fences keep good neighbors. Setting up the boundaries for yourself, right? To protect against the things that should not be in your orbit. Letting people know where you begin, where you end, right? Figuring out how to allocate time for yourself, but also for your community and for others. Like, what does that look like as you design your life? These are the tools that we need foundationally so that we can continue to stand in our glow power. If we are if we are trampled upon, if we do not feel agency, if we do not feel grounded in ourselves, if we feel lost, like all these things are like dim your light, but all these things like keep you from staying on course with your mission in life. And all of us are born on mission. So we have to always come back to that. Like, I got to stay on course for what I'm here to do, what God sent me here to do, right? What spirit or whatever it is that you believe in sent you here to do. You have to stay true to that. And obviously your mission evolves as you grow, but the core of who you are and what you're meant to do is the same. And so you have to stay committed to that. And everything that comes in to distract you and keep you away from that, by way of bullying, social, undermining,
distractions, all of it. Yeah.
All of that stuff is distracting, right? So you have to set boundaries around yourself for protection.
Set those fences, like you said.
Fences.
But here's the key, Latham, is it's going way back to the beginning of this interview is the having that awareness. So a lot of us don't know what our purpose is. We don't know who we are. I'll probably count myself in on that. So do you recommend maybe taking some time and going up on your roof or in the backyard or out in nature or whatever with a notebook, maybe to write down some of the things that make your heart sing, some of the things that don't make your heart sing, what it is you want to accomplish in the world. Like, if I feel like once you have that, then you can always go back to that and say, no, I'm not living up to who I am. I'm not living up to my meaning. But that's the troubling thing, at least for me, and I think for other people too, is what is my purpose and who am I?
Right.
So how do you help us with that?
Yeah, purpose is so interesting because I think that, like the dialogue around it is almost as if it's like this tangible thing that also is so elusive and evasive. Like it's always moving and you're like trying to find what it is. And really, I believe that we get signals constantly about what our purpose is. However, our lives are full of distraction so that we can't hear sometimes. Mm-hmm. We can't recognize it sometimes. We don't know how to articulate or interpret it sometimes. And, but it's not that like God or the universe or spirit isn't constantly engaging us with what that mission is or with what that purpose is. When you feel, there's a difference for me, at least between, there's two things. One is passion, which I believe is really easy for people to find, because passion is more like, think about the things that bring you a lot of joy to do. So if you're somebody who starts doodling and then 3 hours later you look up and it's dark out, you're like, what happened with the time, right? Like that's something that you're passionate about, right? It can expand time and take you to a place where you feel just like at ease. You like, running, or you like, working with children, whatever it is, right? These are things that we can be like, that show up as like passions. And passion is something that also kind of moves us to action, but also is something that is joyful and brings ease, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would encourage people who have trouble with sensation and identifying sensation, and usually people who have this trouble, for many of us, it's because when we have information that's shared with us by our intuition, or what I call GPS, that we don't validate that intuition. So when we have sensations that would be speaking to us, we can't interpret it because we're always shutting off this part of our body or this part of our consciousness, right? So we're not necessarily like letting it speak to us and actually using that as intelligence, right? We're using our mind mainly, probably, and not really like, our gut, which is really another intelligence. It's like our second brain, right? Mm-hmm. But it's like the heart brain is the gut. So here's the other thing. So that feeling that you get when you start to do those things that you love. So if you start to do almost like what is it called? In like a what do you call it? Not an invoicing, like a, almost like a audit.
An audit, right? Yeah, inventory. Yes.
Inventory, there's a word.
Yes.
Right?
By the way, so hang on to this one if you want, Latham. But Tony Robbins, I've been blessed to take Business Mastery, and the one thing that he will have, the men and women who come speak to you, they're all about inventory. With your business, you need to take inventory. Who's buying your product, what time are they buying the product, why are they buying the product, and they're constantly gathering data and taking inventory, and that's how they keep the business going. That's how they keep improving it. But then as I have had more classes with Tony, and then all the experts like you that come on Maria's show, it seems like you need to take an inventory of your life.
Inventory of life.
Right. So what you're saying, yeah.
But this inventory of the passion inventory, right, like that I'm asking you to do, is part of the exercise to get towards more of purpose, because the passion really, like, that helps you to feel like in your body what feels good, what you like to do, which leads you really towards purpose, which is really calling, right? And a calling is different than passion, because a calling is not convenient. It is not necessarily fun. It is not necessarily joyful. It is not necessarily aligned with the plans that you have laid out for yourself, right? A calling is something that you don't have a choice in whether or not you pursue, but it is in your face. It is over your shoulder, nipping at your ear, telling you, get up and go do this thing. It will bother you until you act on it. So the thing that you are gifted at, that you have been afraid to pursue, that you put on a back burner because you do not know how it's going to come together, but if you do it, like the risk that you have to take, like all those things that you're like, the fear of doing this thing that you're actually divinely designed to do, is where the purpose lies. And that's really the calling, right? The passion is amazing because it fuels us in actually moments of respite, moments of restfulness, where we can take time away to do the things that kind of bring us back to a full battery, right? That's where we put our passion, right? But you do not start a business off of passion. You start a business off of a calling. You don't pursue passion for your life's work. You pursue your calling for your life's work. And that is sustaining you through the rest of your life to do that thing that you're called to do. God. That is being obedient to that thing. But you have sometimes, like, if the entry point for people has not been that they've been in dialogue with that thing just yet, I encourage doing a passion inventory first and doing the things that you enjoy, so that you can actually reconnect with sensation, reconnect with what it feels like to do something you love, and to then be able to understand the difference between the thing that you love and the thing that you feel compelled to do. Because the thing that you feel compelled to do won't always make sense. It won't make sense to your friends, to your family members. It won't make sense necessarily financially at first. It won't make sense in terms of your life at first. Like for me with doula work, I was like, no, like I was not actively pursuing this as part of my plan. It is the biggest part of my business because I obeyed the calling, right? But the calling is what makes me get up at night at 2, 3, 4 in the morning when there was no Uber and put my son in a snowsuit in the middle of a snowstorm and hail a cab in New York City, because, by the way, you had to hail cabs back then.
Yes, I can't even
put him in a car with me, head downtown to my son's grandfather's house, put him in the house, and then get another cab that I had to hail to head to Brooklyn, to then go in the middle of the night to be alongside a couple as they were welcoming a baby into the world. That is a calling, right? That makes you do that. Not something that you're passionate about, right? I'm passionate about sleep, right? But I was foregoing my sleep to pursue my calling, which was to be of service. And so that is what I'm talking about. When you feel this thing and it will not make sense, it'll be like, it's like there's always a way when we pursue this, that doors open up for us, things feel more easeful because the work is actually really challenging to do. the work that's on your plate, what you're being called to do, takes a lot of your energy, and there's a cost involved in pursuing it, right? Which where passion, it doesn't. Passion is great, it's fun, it's easy, but a calling and a purpose is meant to mold you and shape you and grow you. And so many times it's not that people don't know their purpose, is that they avoid their purpose because the purpose takes work.
Holy cow.
Well, look at the work that you put in, and I feel like, it's always been the younger generation that just wants it now. This is not millennial culture that makes it new. That's been around forever. But I feel like when I hear your story of cabbing it all through town with a baby and this and that just to go into Brooklyn and do your job, to answer your calling, I feel like there's people who kind of want to cut that out and then just go online and now become a expert with a million followers. And but getting back to this formula, I love this. So it's like listing out your passions, living those passions, and then you're of the belief that if you start living out these passions and kind of muting the things that are draining your energy, this will help you to finally to hear your calling.
Yeah, I believe so, because I think that sensation, right? Like when we start to feel, and this also can be achieved through the mindfulness practices we were talking about, right? You just talked about going outside and sitting and breathing and then writing down. That's mindfulness, right? That will also take us there. So having a consistent practice of like, let me take this inventory. Let me sit outside and look at the trees. And I have this thought. Let me journal that. Right? Like things will emerge and come forth. And I also think that being around people that you see who are living their callings also can help inspire in you, to be in relationship with yours, right? Because sometimes it's not that we're not connected to it. It's that it's right here. And we keep going like, excuse me, like leave me alone. I want to do this thing over here. Yes. Right. So it's easier to ignore it than it is to pursue it, because it costs something to do it. There's you don't get to have your normal regular life that's like set up as the way it is. Like you have to give something up to like do this thing. It's like when we think about the hero's journey, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you have this person who is one aspect of themselves is here, and this person is called to become something else and to show up in a different way. And they don't feel like they have the skill set or the way. And they take this journey. And we see this in every movie, right? That's about transformation. This is like the formula, right? Yep. This hero's journey. And they go into this place where they have to kind of, basically separate themselves from the pack and kind of have this transformative, moment in time where they realize what they're meant to do, and they reemerge. And when they come on the other side of this process, which is much like birth, by the way, they come on the other side of this process, they have something that they didn't have when they started, right? They come on the other side with something they didn't have when they started. And that is what I'm talking about. That evolution, right? When you take that journey, when you have that thing now that is uniquely connected to who you are as a person now, and this fully expressed version of yourself that's going to show up and do this work that's in the world, you have to go through that process, right? You have to shed ego. You have to shed aspects of yourself that, will not be able to carry the weight of this responsibility that you're about to step into. And this new version of yourself emerges to be able to carry this thing, the responsibility, the weight, the gravity of the work that you're meant to do. That person has to be cultivated. And so, it's much easier, to like dibble and dabble and enjoy the things that give you pleasure, which are so important. But your work is not always pleasurable. I just want to remind people of that. Like the work that we're called to do can be rewarding, and it should be deeply rewarding, but it is not always at every single aspect. That every single juncture, it is not always pleasurable.
It's not pleasure. I think in the long term, though, if you answer your calling, you have a more fulfilled life.
That's exactly right.
And then if you don't,
when we're talking about fulfillment,
yes,
absolutely, I agree with you 100%, 100,000%.
So Latham, I'll share this with you, because you're just helping me make sense of my own life. Thank you so much. But I made my first film at 7. So I have a passion for making movies and writing and working with actors, and there's a passion there. But my network for 10 years, 50% of our mission was to help hosts break into show business, and whether I'm at a gas pump talking to somebody, or even you at the beginning of our conversation before we went on air, like, I just can't help but go into help and coach and fix and this and that. And so I think what is been painful for me, but you're helping me, and thank you so much. You're probably helping a lot. I'm hoping that sharing this helps other people too, but I realize that filmmaking and working with actors is a passion. And Maria's been trying to tell me this, and I haven't listened. But I think that the calling for me is to work and help people in any way I can. And the passion is that. But there's other people who tell great stories and entertain me and entertain other people. Doesn't mean I'm not going to do that, because I will, but I think it's going to be more of an hors d'oeuvre. It's more like of a fun thing for me to do. But as far as like that being my life, I don't think so anymore. And I think it just took me a long time to realize the calling, but I think with you and your ways, and if we study under you, we can get to it a lot sooner and then make for more fulfillment, because I would have had more fulfillment if I had embraced this, when I was younger, if I had that understanding.
Yeah. But I think what's so beautiful about your journey though, is that you were able to pursue things that brought joy and do things that, like you said, help other people as well as yourself. And you still have a really full life ahead. So now you can come from the vantage point of having had life experience, right? Having to be able to now, be in relationship with people and say, hey, like, this is what this is like, my entire life was this, and which has been amazing. And what I'm deeply called to do is help people who are in this industry or in whatever to live their best life in these ways or whatever it is. But to me, like, you would not have been able to do it at 19, no. You think so. It's like you needed to get to where you are now. And then also to have the respect and the pedigree and all the things that you've cultivated to be able to be like, this is what I'm stepping into. And for people to be able to like easily follow you into this next chapter. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think it's so important that you lived what you already lived, and to know that you have a partner who is deeply committed to your self-fulfillment also, and that you all together work to, literally, like, we're in a space called Better Together, y'all. So this is about community. This is about like self-reflection through community, right? Like helping each other be better together. So this is what you're all about already. And it's what you've been doing already, right? Mm-hmm. So the pain, right, for many of us is like, oh, the thing that people know me for and what they rely on me for, like, I'm going to actually move away from that and be doing this other thing. And the people will show up, which is the beauty, right? They're going to show up like it'll be like this, like doors will open because you've chosen what you're supposed to be doing. And you'll find that it's probably more easeful over time to be doing this work that you already feel called to do, like that you already do without even realizing. Yeah. And many times you are realizing that it's just like something that it just comes up.
It comes up natural. Yeah.
It's like an autopilot, right? At this point.
Well, it takes away what it does from you giving me this understanding, and thank you again. What it gives you is, for me, is less of the shame and the guilt of not or feeling like a failure because I'm not working on the passions. So that's my thing, very 20th century capitalism. You're thinking, why am I not killing it over there, when it's because probably I'm not answering my calling.
Yeah, I should be over here.
Yeah.
And you knew that you felt something inside that was telling you, I need to be doing this, but I had this whole thing going on.
I kept fighting but I wasn't aware. I wasn't pausing. I wasn't doing the things you're saying. It was just keep going, get up, try harder, work harder, shut up. Like, you're not working hard enough, focus more, but again, it's that awareness that you're talking about that helps. And of course, these conversations help as well. So, Latham, my God, like I think we're going to have to hear from you more as this journey goes on. Latham, where do we find you?
Yeah, so I'm on social media, even though we've been talking about don't be on social media.
But you're giving service to people, and people
Yeah.
need this, you know.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm on social at Glow Maven. It's just GLOWMAV as in Victor, MAVEN. So Glow Maven on Instagram. We also have Mama Glow, which you can find so many amazing, like posts and content information and lives that center around pregnancy, birth, postpartum period. That's just at Mama Glow, MAMAGLOW. Same thing for the website, mamaglow.com. People can go there, and there's really great content there as well. So yeah, I'm around though, So yeah.
I already have like 10 different ideas running through my head. I'm gonna wait till this is off air, and then I'm gonna hit you with a bunch of stuff. I don't want to bore our fans. Anyway, thank you, Latham. Thank you so much. And like I said, thank you for being a friend of the Heal Squad and Better Together. And I know that this conversation is going to continue, valuable. And it's so valuable.
Yeah.
Thank you
so much, y'all.
Okay, so
okay.
Kelsey Alexander.
Did you say Alexander?
Alexandra.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like Alexander too. I'll take it.
Alexandra.
She's amazing. I mean, her whole stuff about how your calling can be painful. I think that's something everyone needs to hear right now, because like you were saying, with everyone who's like TikTok famous and this famous, they're like, well, screw it. That's hard. So I'll just go do this.
Well, I think anyway, I don't want to, I digress.
You digress.
No, I don't know. I wonder if that maybe, I think we get confused. I think here's the thing. I think a lot of times our talents and our gifts and our passions may not necessarily be our calling.
Well, right. And that's what she was saying.
But I think that's what hurts people.
Yes.
And so,
it's like what you always say too. Not a lot of people want to do the work, right? So if it's a calling and if it's difficult and you're struggling a little bit with it, it still could be your calling.
But I think you got to step back though, Kels. Take a step back. I don't think anyone knows who they are. Most people don't know who they are and what their calling is.
Right.
So we just kind of go with what we have hung on to for a long time in our brains.
And what feels
so good. We have our friend, Roxy. Yeah. And I don't want to I'm not saying anything bad about it. It's stuff I've said to her face. So, but, Roxy has this thing in her head. Since I was 3, I had to be in LA. Since I was 3, I had to be in LA, and I had to be, in show business doing X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And I just am at a point with her where I'm saying, I'm wondering if you're hanging on to having to be in LA. And as I hear from Latham, is that really your calling? Are you called to be in LA?
Right.
You might be called to be an actor and in show business, but that can happen anywhere now. Right. So I'll take it away from Roxy to myself. Is I never took the time to realize what my calling was. It was like early on, whatever gave me pleasure.
Right.
Then as I got older, it was like, okay, what is going to give me success?
Right.
Which may not be pleasure, and wasn't, because it was a lot of hard work, and but there wasn't that awareness of saying like, wait, what is my calling? And maybe I'm not called to do what I want, which is I love making movies or making TV, or I love working with actors, and I love all that.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that's not my calling.
Right.
Like maybe that is a passion
right.
of something to do for fun. But the problem is, I was convinced that was my calling, or that's what I should be doing. And so when I wasn't doing it because I was busy doing my calling, not knowing it was my calling,
right.
then I'm down on myself.
Right.
I'm failing.
Right.
I'm not spending enough time in this. I'm not focusing enough on this.
You're guilty. You're shameful. You're pissed at yourself.
I think we all take a step back through what Latham was saying and really take that time to sit with ourselves and say, okay, well, these are my passions. Okay. And like she was saying, the formula to find your calling and your purpose is start living your passions more, right. And then start studying and being close to people who are answering their callings.
Right.
And maybe that's the formula, to find out what your calling is.
Right.
But I never took the time.
Well, and I think that another thing, it was kind of like what she was talking about at the beginning, right? We have to be emotionally and spiritually fit to be able to kind of like realize and understand all of this. Like to be able to be aware, we have to be in a headspace that allows for that download.
Because when you're like murky and toxified and
Well, and she had a quote, I wrote it down. It's every message we get in the world turns you away from yourself. So if you're constantly on your social or like just constantly everywhere else but here,
all the distractions,
it's just turning you away from you. So how are you even going to know your calling, your passions, your anything? No, right?
You've got to sit. You have to sit.
You have to be emotionally and spiritually fit. And I think that, like you guys joked about, we so often think that that's like, okay, I'm going to sit and okay, bubble bath, self-care, wine. But it's true because that's trendy. That's not what
and by the way, it's trendy and it's easy.
And it's easy.
Right?
Right. Because actually doing the work is really, really hard.
Yeah.
Talking to a therapist or is really, really hard.
Or looking at yourself.
Or looking at yourself is really, really hard.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah. Or at the very least, it's not fun.
It's not fun. Right.
It's fun to watch Game of Thrones.
A bubble bath and wine is fun.
Yeah.
And not that that's bad. I think bubble baths are great. Throw a little Epsom salt in there.
No, it is great, but it's a little relief. It's not a solution.
Yes.
It's a relief. It's not that's not the yeah.
I mean, I'll give you an example. I've really been trying to meditate every morning for like at least 5 minutes. This morning, Wincenza wouldn't stop licking herself, so it wasn't fun for me.
Wincenza.
She's in my lap now. And I was like, I'm going to, Wincenza. But I had to be, I was like, okay, you got this. You got this. Silly example. But again, bless you, Winnie. Things like that, like these practices are not always fun.
No.
But you have to do it so that you can hear your calling that's right behind you.
Yeah,
you know?
It's people would either want to be distracted with something that gives them pleasure, or the other extreme is I have to work harder. Like that was how I took it. I think that's what Roxy does too. I have to work harder. Yes. I have to put in more. Yes. What am I doing sitting in the woods here with a notebook?
Right.
I know with Roxy, I could be doing a podcast right now. I could be doing a broadcast. I could be writing my script. I could be, right. And so there's both those extremes.
And that's scary too. Yeah, I mean.
But the more we do the show, Kelsey, the more we talk to people like Latham and the other people, the more we just start realizing, like, you gotta just pause.
Yeah.
And take inventory.
Yeah.
And have that awareness, to go, okay, what makes my heart sing? What doesn't?
Right. And take care of you. I think.
Well, that's why we have the bubble baths and the wine.
Oh my God. No. What I was going to say, take care of you in ways that are like productive. Like this one really spoke to me. The fences keep good neighbors, because I've been trying really hard. Especially it's hard on the East Coast when people on the West Coast think that they can call you when it's 6 o'clock their time or 7 o'clock their time. So like, for example, the other night I had turned off my phone and then it was like a work call, not with you guys, but it was like part of work anyways, and I answered it, and then I was just like,
Queen.
Then I was just pissed. Like I was in a bad mood because I was exhausted. It was like 10:30.
Just don't.
And I'm like, Kelsey.
And I'm telling you, I'm the guy who's the workaholic and like you're a leader, and I'm like, no,
I know, and it really.
Sorry, B.
They could have waited, and it really just like.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me.
And so I'm like, but I set those boundaries. Fences keep good neighbors. I'm like,
do. Yeah.
Amen.
And we heard from. Even this week too, J-Ray, I said, J-Ray, you have all these like people hitting you up, texting around the clock.
Yeah, that was.
Do I sign this contract? Do
my boyfriend broke up with me.
And she just goes, and I go, how do you get them to stop reaching for the giant bowl of M&Ms? To keep it. She's like, I put the lid on the jar. She's like, that's it. Tightly.
Yeah.
So I think, those setting up those fences. I also think we keep hearing too, and she mentioned it too, J-Ray had said the 4 minutes in the morning kind of sets her up for happiness first day. I think it was J-Ray, right? Am I just lost?
No.
We're in this vortex of I'm doing a million interviews. But
the first 4 minutes is going to set your tone for the day.
But Latham was saying this too, like in the morning.
Yes.
And then we were hearing from another expert last week about that, like the organizing your time to organize. No, it was scheduling your
schedule time to kind of like schedule your life.
And he was saying that 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night, it's you time.
Yes.
And it's nothing else.
Yes.
And so
so many, all of them say it.
They're all saying the same things.
Yes.
That's what's so fascinating, is that That's why I love this show and what Maria's built here, because it's making me really just so much more aware.
I agree.
But what all the greats are aware of and teaching us, but it's all the same thing.
It's all the same, and I just
but
love
just said
it.
in a different way.
Right, and it's so special because we've mentioned this before, but it's like different people are going to impact you differently. Her saying that thing about the fences really stuck with me.
Right, and I heard the lid on the cookie jar.
Right,
the M&M
exactly,
jar.
exactly.
Yeah,
so it's like different. They're saying the same things, and it's all these really important messages, but it's like different people are going to grab it differently. Like Devon Franklin's episode from the other week still is like seared into my brain about expectations.
Here's the problem with having all the tools, Kelsey, that we keep gathering, you and I, at the Home Depot, but no time to use them.
Right.
And we just have too many tools now.
Right.
Remind me of Devon Franklin.
Well,
I know him as a person.
His whole thing, Kev, was like how expectations can ruin our lives.
I use him all the time.
All the time. I'm like, oh my God, I'm setting this, my expectation is becoming my standard for someone else. And then it's just like pissing me off in the end.
Yep.
And oh my God.
Yeah. Judgment detox from Gabby. Expectations from him.
Yeah. But all these things, but everyone's saying it,
tools.
And different people, it's like, oh my God, that jumps at me. So then it's like, I'm trying hard. Like Kevin and I joke with all our tools in our Home Depot that we don't use.
Yeah.
I'm really trying hard to, like, whether it's just one at the end of the night, I'm like, okay, I'm going to write that down and like, okay, I'm going to start trying to implement this.
I think the few hours in the morning, few hours at night.
Huge.
Right? So
Huge.
for you, it's like, I know you're boxing now in the mornings. That's great. I think like.
But I'm not going to look at my phone before that.
No.
And that's it.
No. Bye, B.
But it's like, I have to get myself up at a certain time where I know I'm okay to not look at my phone,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that give and
realities.
take.
And, and you're on the grind and the hustle. So there is going to be that. There's no way to cut that. Everyone thinks you can, but you can't. But
I don't need to get on Instagram
that's right. But there's a way to manage it.
Right.
And then you do have to make some sacrifices, but I
don't need to take calls at 10:30.
No, sorry, B.
Yeah.
Sorry, B.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that taking the time in the morning is huge, and then just God, weekends too. If you don't know your purpose, you don't know your calling. These are the things like I tell you on a Saturday, go hiking or go sit somewhere alone. Or by the way, you can sit with a really good friend you trust and ask them, help me. What is my purpose? Help me. Because I don't know about you, Kelsey, but I've always sad to say to Maria, like, wait, should I be mad right now?
I know.
Should I be happy right now? Or should I not be mad right now? So I've always had her as like a barometer.
Sounding board.
Well, more than, a sounding board, but then also like I don't know sometimes what my purpose is, who I am. I don't because I'm just going. I'm doing.
And so that's something that like you're aware of that like you should
now,
work on because you.
Yeah, but I think I'm not the only one.
No,
There's a lot of people who don't know, and they're not. In fact, God, I don't know many people. If I said, "What you calling?" I think they go, "Huh?"
Yeah.
Listen, dude. I'm trying to like make rent, or
Yeah.
Like say my mother, like, how many errands I have today, asking me that. Like most people don't think.
No, definitely.
But I think the new generation is going to because they're going to be more evolved in that way.
Yeah.
And listen, being in this everyone serves a calling.
Mm-hmm. Everyone.
Everybody does. Even people who do bad things, I guess they're called to do that to show us other things,
Right.
Yeah. But I think, I'm not sure everyone serves a calling. Everyone has a calling, I think.
I don't think everyone serves it.
No. But I think that everyone has, or they serve the calling and they don't give themselves credit for it. I'm a fireman, but I never got to, I don't know, be a lawyer or I don't know, open my pizza place. But wait,
right.
But B, you saved about 40 lives.
Right. But that's that because like what you were saying, their passion was opening the pizza place or doing that. Yeah. So they're not letting themselves off that hook. They're still mad at themselves and they're not being aware that, wow, oh my God, I'm saving all these people. This is my calling. My mother, I'm always reminding her about her teaching. Right. I'm like, Mom, like you were like, back in the 70s, my mother was saying, listen, kids are not reading. They're reading less for a reason, but they're still learning. They're just learning visually. They're much more visual. So my mother would teach Shakespeare and all this like high-end stuff
to kids who had learning and reading disabilities, she would teach them through animation, slide presentations, Super 8 film, silent movies.
Awesome.
She had them doing all this stuff, and it was fun, and they learned, and she got a lot of flack from it.
Really?
From the old guard was like reading, and but I'm always reminding her of her calling. And shout out to Auntie Shannon.
Shout out to Auntie Shannon.
After the wake, Auntie Shannon told my mother, like, when you had me back in whatever grade, 7th grade, I don't know what it was, but she said, like, everything in my life was hopeless. Oh. You know, my family, everything. But when I was with you, you made me believe that I was beautiful and that I was smart and that I mattered. And she's like, and I thank you for that. And my mother was just kind of like a little bit confused, like, but just was in a good mood after that. Like, but I said, Mom, do you see where I'm saying? Like, that's Auntie Shannon. Do you know how many kids that you affected in that way, that you fully answered your calling and then some?
Yes.
So other things that you enjoyed, art and painting, and okay, like, you still do it and you could do it, but
that was your calling.
Stop looking at like you didn't fulfill your calling. Yes. And not that she does. But I don't know if she fully embraces her achievements and what she was called to do and how she successfully did it. And I think a lot of us do that, myself included.
Well, I feel like we've become this society of like the what ifs, right? It's like, well, what if I had done that? What if I could do this? And it's like, how about you be present and realize what you're doing is amazing, or like that you're on the right path.
And then if we go to what if, why doesn't anyone go to like, how much worse it could be? Listen, even when I've had to deal with like bad family members or whatever, I go, I'll say to Maria, let me show you. Yeah. Let me show you the heroin addicts who like wiped out their family's savings, everything, and then laughed at the end of it. Like, I will give you, so you want me to keep going? Like of what we don't have in our lives, but could right now? Right. But so if you want to play the what if game, what if it was worse? And it could be worse. And it always could be worse. Always. But you're right. The what ifs and the comparisons and all that stuff.
Putting things on, like putting certain things on pedestals. And we're like, well, that it will be better if we do that. And then it's like, no. And I mean, I'm guilty of it too. We all are.
Oh my God, please. We're all guilty of it. And I think, anyway, probably getting off the subject, but I think with as celebrities kind of imploding a little bit, I feel like with Hollywood, I think, I don't know, I'm hoping less people are on pedestals.
I think it's not even just people, though, necessarily that people put on pedestals. I think it's ideas.
But when we see, when we see certain people and how they're living their lives, how ignorant they are, loud they are, and then we go, oh, I'm gonna act like that.
Oh yeah,
and you know what I mean? Yes, I'm gonna put that. How many times do I tell you like who we put on pedestals, rather than when my sewerage literally backed up into our like dirt floor basement, right? And so we have a swamp of shit in our basement. And I've got an elderly, I've got an elderly in-law. I have a stage 4 cancer, COVID elderly second in-law. Yeah. I have my housekeeper who's my mom, who's older. Right. And that's and the guy, Juan, that's like, boss, I got it. Don't worry. And he comes out and his helpers get under there and they fix, and I'm like, okay, that's to me. Mm-hmm. I'm putting them on a pedestal for doing that, and talk about answering a calling. And my goodness, all the caretakers through COVID, and my goodness, the people that have to, our caretakers here, all were crying when Lisa passed. And guess what? They're going to go and do that for someone else, Kelsey. Yep. And then they're going to cry again. Yep. It's unbelievable. I know. Those are the people that should be on the pedestals. Yes. But instead, we have a tendency to put, the people, hey bitches, who like wouldn't pee on you if you were on fire. We're like, let's put them on a pedestal anyway. But I'm digressing and I'm judging. Judgment detox. and I'm having expectations. So somewhere Devon Franklin and Gabby Bernstein are really mad at me.
That's right. But Latham is not.
Latham's
you made
not.
a new friend. She's amazing.
Yeah, she's very nice.
Yeah.
She's wonderful. I'm excited for her future, and
Me
I thought this was really helpful. So anyway, until then, what, Kelsey Meyer?
Oh my gosh! Until then, well, hold on. When Chenza wants to be part of this.
Okay, here she is.
Here she is.
Okay.
Okay.
Be a little shy.
Okay.
Well, she's tired.
Yeah, she's so tired. Okay, you guys. Until then, be nice people, make good choices, and be present. Bye.